Welcome to Bite Size Games, the podcast where we review short games and give big opinions. I'm joined by a couple gaming buddies here.
My name is Matt.
And I'm Dennis.
And what's
And
your
I'm
name?
Phil.
Okay.
I'm Phil, yes. So, so today we're going to be discussing a game that's called Keep Driving. It's an indie game that came out recently. It just came out February 6th of this year. And it's published and produced, I guess I don't know if it's produced, but it's published by and developed by YCJY Games. So I kind of looked up this company, and
it's YCJY, by the way. It's not
YCJY.
YCJ.
Is that what I just said? YCJY?
That is what he said.
YCJ. You said YCJ Games.
He said YCJY.
Really? I only know YCJ.
I thought I did. They seem to have a couple games I've never heard of before that came out before this. So I don't know if you guys have any experience with this publisher developer. Have you heard of any of the previous games?
Nope. This is my first experience.
Okay. Well, before we dive deeper into this game, I do have a question. This game is basically a driving simulator and a road trip simulator, I guess is more accurate. And
I wouldn't call it a driving simulator at all.
No.
Yeah. It's actually the driving part. Yeah, we'll get into that. But it's a road trip
Kung
simulator.
Fu Street Fighter simulator. I mean,
it would have been cool if there was a beat up a car section of this game, but there's not. But yeah, before I dive deeper, I do have a question. If you're on a road trip and you had to choose one musician or whatever, maybe it doesn't even have to be a musician, one thing to listen to for the entire road trip of, say, 7 hours, who or what would you choose to listen to on this road trip? I'm going to ask Matt.
I'm intrigued by this. It doesn't have to be an artist. It has to.
Yeah, you just threw me off.
Yeah, what does that mean? Like,
well, mixing it up,
like a genre.
No, I'm saying it could be like a podcast, I suppose.
Huh. Oh, okay, so it doesn't have to be music, you mean, but something that you listen to, like audiobooks.
You got to listen to like one specific thing.
Okay.
One source. You can't mix it up. You can't change the source up. You can't put on another. You can't put another thing on. You got to listen to the one thing.
It's one podcast, but all of their episodes.
You can listen to all their episodes. You can listen to one artist. You can listen to all their CDs. You can listen to, I don't know what else there is.
How old are you?
CDs. Yeah. Although this game does feature CDs, although it takes place.
That is kind of weird because I guess my memories of driving around was putting CDs into it.
So, right.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Well, you had shared this question before, so I had a bit of time to think about it. But when you shared it, it was about an artist to listen to. You didn't say anything about podcasts or anything else.
Stick with that.
And if, this is a hard one to answer, and I don't want to get into a massive music discussion here, but I wavered between a lot of different options, but in the end, I went with what I thought would probably be the most one that would keep me, entertained for a long time, and that was Radiohead, just because they have a pretty large catalog, pretty large album library, and they've gone through a lot of different phases, and they have a lot of different types of music, and I always appreciate their music, and some of it's really upbeat, some of it's really sad, so it's kind of all over the place. And I just felt like, and I always like him, and their album In Rainbows is like one of my favorite albums ever. But there were a lot of other artists I was thinking about, but that's the one I ended up settling on. But it was definitely a tricky question. But yeah, Radiohead was my answer.
It's interesting because Radiohead is one of those artists. Well, I obviously know Radiohead, and I do like their music, but I don't think I've ever listened to like any of their CDs or albums.
Well, you definitely.
I only know
that.
Yeah, the music video songs, basically. So.
Oh, you only know their hits, kind of thing.
Yeah, I basically only know like what's like on the radio or something like that.
Oh,
and I like it. I just never really like. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
You should do a Radiohead dive, man. They're pretty awesome.
Okay. What about you, Dennis?
I actually chose the same Radiohead.
No way.
No fucking way.
No way. Wow.
I wavered a little bit because I wouldn't want to pick like something I'm into right now. Wouldn't want to pick like a band that has like one or two good albums, and I was trying to think like whose entire catalog is strong, and then I started going back to like, well, maybe like somebody like David Bowie or
I thought about them
like
too,
Tom
or him.
Waits.
Mhm.
Like they've got a pretty extensive discography that that goes places too. And I was like, but for road trip, I feel like I'd want to. I don't know. I feel like you'd get a little bit of more of a mix with Radiohead, so that was where I landed as well. Um, if
That's
we're
funny.
adding like non-music, maybe I'd like find an audiobook that I've always wanted to read, or something that like fits the length of my journey or something. That's another option. But
Yeah, maybe I would
depends on
choose like
if there's people in the car, probably music.
right.
If I'm alone, maybe I would consider doing a
Stephen
book.
King would be good. He's got a ton of books. That would be fun,
Nice
like
long
Audible.
books. Yeah.
Or even like comedy would be another option too. So yeah, you threw us off with this, Phil.
I guess I kind of threw you off with that because I think picking an audiobook is kind of cheating. It's easier. It's a much easier decision to pick a book.
When I used to go on long drives, I would often listen to a comedy album. Like if I got tired of listening to music, I would put on a comedy album like Bill Burr or whatever. And that was always a lot of fun, even with other people in the car, because everyone would be cracking up. It's a really good way to pass the time. So that would be another option.
Comedy albums probably pretty good. I think I might have listened to like one or two
Adam
in my life.
Sandler, we're all gonna laugh at you.
Mine were like David Cross and Bill
Jerky
Burr.
Boys.
Jerky Boys.
Yeah.
When I was in middle school, yeah. Same with Adam Sandler. That was like middle school.
Yeah, that was the heyday for those albums.
Yeah. Piece of shit car. That would be very fitting for this.
So my choice, obviously, Taylor Swift. I'm a Swiftie. Okay, I'm kind of cheating. I'll be honest. I'm cheating because I'm just thinking about. I had a road trip. I think I might have told you guys this story. I went on this road trip with some coworkers once, and it was like Taylor Swift for the entire ride. It was.
Were they all
borderline.
choosing music, or
What's that?
were they all choosing the music, or was it just one person controlling the music?
It was like one person. You know how that happens sometimes? You're in a car and there's like one person who just like like you get like 3 or 4 other people who just don't care, and I guess one person is just
Right.
like just keeps going with the same album or the same artist, and it was driving me insane. Like it was just like how much I like for a while because I didn't know
Wait.
everyone else that well.
So Taylor Swift isn't your choice?
It really isn't my choice, but I'm
sure
just
it's
saying it
not.
to kind of I'm kind of copping out because
That's a
this
funny
really
story,
was a
though.
really hard decision.
Was that in Japan?
This was in Japan, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
So wait,
and like I
isn't
said,
Taylor Swift, even though it was horrible for you?
I'm like I said, I'm kind of copping out. It was hard to choose an artist that I could actually, and
So
if
you're
anything,
giving a
maybe
fake answer. On
Okay.
your
That
own
was
question.
that was a fake answer.
I'm gonna
Right.
do it. I'm okay. So that was a fake answer, and if I'm gonna give a real answer, it's gonna
Apologies
be
to all the people who like Taylor Swift who listen to this
Yeah.
podcast.
this
Phil apparently
podcast.
thinks she's a joke.
You know what? I don't. She's overrated. I'm gonna come out and just say she's
Oh,
overrated.
okay.
I'm sorry. She's overrated.
You don't want to
I'm gonna
anger
go with Santana. I'm just gonna throw it out. And why? I don't even know Santana that well, but I've listened to a few songs. And
was
I
your
was like, you
choice?
know what? If I go on a road trip and I'm on it for several hours, I can listen to someone new that I kind of think I like. Does that
I
make
hope
any
you like
sense?
guitar. It's like
Yeah,
it's
I'm happy.
heavy.
Maybe I
like-
should
I
go
like
Pink
that-
Floyd or something.
I like the approach
Floyd would be good.
of picking an artist that you don't know well
Yeah.
enough and like using that road trip to explore their entire oeuvre.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's true.
I'll be stuck with them, and I'll have to hear the whole discography. So
That's cool.
I respect
so
that.
That's what I'm
Yeah. I like that. The reasoning behind the choice is good. And I'm amazed that Dennis and I chose the same artist. That's pretty funny.
That
Yeah.
is freaking kind of weird, man.
What were some of your runner-ups? I think David
Well-
Bowie might have been my first runner-up.
David Bowie was one of the ones I was thinking about. I was also thinking about Nirvana, but their catalog isn't that big.
Tom Waits was one of mine as well.
I wasn't thinking about Tom Waits. I was thinking about Beck. Possibly he has a really big catalog.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't remember. Talking Heads was another one I was thinking about, I think.
It's not bad.
I
Yeah.
was actually kind of thinking about Talking Heads too, but I didn't go with Talking Heads. So yeah, with that being said, we're thinking about the road trip. We're gonna get back to the game at hand which is Keep Driving, people. Keep Driving, which is a road trip
It's not
simulation
a simulation.
RPG. Okay, road
Do you know what a
trip.
sim is?
I mean, it's a bit of a unique title, I think, in what it is, but it's
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
But
I
it's
just
not a
think
simulation.
it's absolutely not a sim
it's got some
game.
simulation aspects, right? You played Sim City. What if you had a game called Sim Drive or Sim Road Trip?
Sim is all about like realism and
Yeah,
like
there are games like that where you like just drive down a
Okay.
highway for hours.
right. That's like
Wait a minute.
road truck.
You don't think there's some
European
realism to
road
this?
truck?
Okay, actually,
No.
we'll get into that. We won't talk about arguing. Let's
Well, I've
get
never
back to what this is.
driven a car with a mouse and keyboard.
Let describe this game. It's
And,
a
like,
game where it's an
yeah.
RPG. It's a car road trip RPG. You drive. You're on a road trip. You're a young A or B person, and you're going from. You start out and you're on a mission to go somewhere, and on this journey you can get a lot of things can happen, which we're going to get into. And so again, this game came out this year, February 6th, 2025. And it's a very highly reviewed game. And so if you're interested, I highly recommend you go check it out. It's called Keep Driving. And we're going to jump more into it. But okay, so I'm going to ask Dennis, how long did it take you to beat? And if you could describe shortly how you felt about the game.
This game took me about 6 to 7 hours to beat, and I thought it was a really charming game that easy to jump into for quick runs, but as long as you manage your expectations, I think you can have a good time, especially if you're a millennial or maybe a Gen X or
Wait, what are we? Gen Z?
we're millennials. Well,
We're
I'm a
millennials.
millennial.
Yeah, I think we're
I don't know.
probably all millennials.
Gen Z is
or around
younger
that.
than
Okay.
Matt. How do you
Okay.
not know?
I'm beyond the gen, I think. I'm under a boomer, I think.
Gen X would be the next one before.
Gen X
Like,
would have been
next
90s
older.
or something, right? Like if you're
That's the
an
next
adult
older
in the
after
90s.
millennial. Millennials are a
Older
really
than
big
us, yeah.
one, big group.
Okay.
Yeah, we're the kids of the boomers, basically.
Right.
Generally,
Right.
the baby
Okay.
boomer.
So, Matt, how about you? How long did it take you to beat, and how did you feel about the game overall?
Yeah, I would.
Nuance.
I will say that I stopped at 7.5 hours or so. This is a weird game in terms of beating because it has like 9 different endings.
Yeah.
I did 5 of those endings total. I got
Okay.
5 of them, but to get the first, like my first run through to get one ending took like 2.5 hours. But I didn't. It's very clear that there are more endings. So I wanted to go back and check out some of the other ones. I did not get all of them. Like I said, I only did 5, and that took me 7.5 hours to do.
Okay.
And yes, sorry, my sentence. It was kind of like it kind of reminded me of a real road trip in that I thought it started off like really fun and exciting, but it kind of for me it became pretty quickly dull and repetitive, and you kind of just have to endure it to get to the end. So that's kind of how I felt by the end of it, but at the start of it I was really enjoying it.
So, but how could you do 5 endings if you felt that way?
Because he's a good podcaster and he did his homework.
Yeah, because I wanted to see that what it was like. But once I got to 5 endings, I was like, okay, I get it. Like I don't need to get all 9 because this is getting really boring. But yeah, that's why I did 5 endings.
Okay. For me, I think the first ending took me like less than 4, maybe 3 hours or something like that, because I know I had failed pretty early on. So maybe 3 hours to do my first completion. And I might have played a total, honestly, I'm going to check right now, actually. I think I played like 8 hours, maybe. No way, I must have left it on or something. It says 16 hours. I don't think that's possible.
Do this every time.
I must have left it on, but I thought it was more like 8 or 9 hours or something like that I must have played in total. And yeah, I think it is kind of similarly to Matt's opinion. I think it is like charming, and it starts out very interesting because I think
That
it's
was me
very
that said
unique.
charming.
That
Okay,
was
I'm
yours.
gonna
That's
take a
charming.
little bit of both you, Dennis and Matt's opinions. That it is charming, but then it does kind of wear off pretty quick, and we can kind of get into the reasons why, obviously, a bit later for me. But yeah, it's charming, but it does kind of wear on you a bit and gets a bit repetitive. But it is a unique title, and it has some things going for it, I think. So that's my thoughts on it. Yeah, and we're gonna dive more into the gameplay. And speaking of gameplay, Dennis, I'd like you to maybe tell us a bit more about the gameplay and how it works.
Right. So, despite what some people would have you believe, this is not a simulation, a
I
driving
think,
simulator
okay,
in any way.
I don't
um,
think it's not black and white.
I would call this game a roguelite with RPG elements, but with the kind of facade of being a road trip. So yes, you are getting in a car. Your character is getting in a car at his house, and he's driving from point A to point. Well, he has a point B that he's meant to go to, but you're kind of driving cross country. I think it's meant to be cross country, but you've got a lot of points on a map where you'll need to stop, get gas, buy food, repair your car, potentially pick up hitchhikers on the way. All of these things that will happen between that point A and point B, but um, kind of similar to a lot of I'm like even things like Slay the Spire for instance, where you have points on a map that you go to. Some things will happen, but not at each point, but things happen between each point. Um, so instead of like combat, like you would have in a traditional RPG, you'll have uh, like getting stuck behind a huge truck, or getting like racing against a car on the road, or coming up to a tree in the road, or a dead animal. Like these little occurrences happen, and you basically have to manage your resources, and in this game your resources are money, fuel, and your personal energy, as well as your car's uh damage, not damage, but your car's like degradation
Durability?
meter.
Yeah.
Durability,
Durability,
yeah,
that's the one. Yeah,
that's what
that's
I
the
call
word I'm
them.
looking for. So certain encounters will target your different meters for each of these different systems that you have. So, for example,
Money too.
yeah, I did say money,
Sorry, I missed that.
but money's probably the least of the ones that I
Mm.
encountered. But
Yeah,
Mostly for the
so
cops.
you have abilities which can be leveled up throughout that you can use to like manage these. And like it's kind of like you're attacking them, but
Yeah, I would say I would call it combat, basically.
yeah, it is. It's like combat, but you're not actually fighting. It's like managing these problems
You're
that you
like
have on
dealing with
the
a
road.
problem, right?
The
Yeah.
combat is like a metaphor for these encounters that you would have while driving, whether it's like running out of energy. This is something that happens
Right.
when people drive.
So like when there's like one of the things is like an argument of the hitchhikers. Like the hitchhikers get into an argument inside the car. You don't actually hear what the argument is at all, but you have to do this like thing. And one of the things it really tries to attack is your personal energy because it
Right,
drains
which
you.
is, if anybody's been in a car with somebody fighting, of course
Right.
it drains your energy. So you can like you can reach into your glove compartment, which is like your quick items menu, and you can give them cigarettes, or like I guess it's kind of representing you giving them something to like hold them over or reduce stress. Give them a pack of gum or some
Yeah.
candy or
Yeah.
something.
But it's
Or you
very
can use your abilities, which
right.
and the hitchhikers themselves also have their own unique abilities, and the hitchhikers that you encounter on the road are all um, they all have their own kind of quirks, personalities, and different skill sets. Um, you also have trunk space as well as seating space, depending on what car you're using. I think you only have one car to start out with, which is just like it's basically like a 1989 Volvo or something.
Yeah,
Like
it's a standard
it's a
sedan.
sedan. I actually used to drive a car just like that in high school.
Yeah.
And so that that car starts out with like some limited trunk space, a little bit of floor space, and then I think you can fit like 4 people in that car. But you unlock other cars throughout that have different
There's
seating.
2 others. We'll be specific
I
here.
think
It's
there's
only
even
2
more than 2 others.
Oh, really? Are there more?
Like
Yeah,
secret unlocked cars or something.
I'm pretty sure there's at least one secret car you can
Hmm.
unlock. I
That would
read
make
about.
sense.
I didn't encounter it, but I read something about that. But yeah, so you get like a truck that you can see at the start. There's the sedan, a truck, and as like a kind of an
Sports
old
car,
sports
like a
car,
Camaro or
Like
something.
a Mustang
yeah,
or like a,
like a
it's
muscle
a
car.
muscle car. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
I wanted like a JDM, like a Japanese
I
Nissan
think
Skyline or something.
might need a
there are
little.
quests as well. Like the hitchhikers themselves sometimes have quests. Like when you pick them up, they'll say, "Hey, can you bring me to this spot?" So you got to like spend a lot of time on the map trying to kind of work out whether or not, like, do I want to take this quest because maybe it's going to take me backwards and
Right.
I actually need to go, maybe
And
I want to go east and not west,
And every
if
quest
it's
has
too
a
far off my
deadline.
path, then it might not be worth it, because you do have a deadline for your final goal, but it's pretty pretty far
deadline,
away, so you have
but
a lot of time
Wait.
before you need to
Is
get
there a
to.
deadline for the
there's
final
a
goal?
deadline for every single quest has a deadline.
But the
Some
main
of them
quest,
say like X days, but I don't feel like the main one had one.
It does.
it does, but it's pretty
It's like a month.
open.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you have a lot
you can
of time.
do a lot before you go and
Yeah. And
get
you don't
to
even
that
have
spot.
to do that, like, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do other ones, guys. I'm tearing up here really hard. I
'Cause you-
just I rubbed my eyes and I had handled some
That's
peppers
fun.
earlier. So just if you wonder why I'm tearing up and crying and struggling,
'cause you're
here
sad.
it's not because I'm sad. It's just the peppers, and I'm just So sorry to interject, but just to get you to know.
But that's the gist of it. It's kind of hard to describe exactly how the gameplay plays out because it's very unique. You're basically dragging things across the screen with your mouse, and especially for combat, you're pulling in your different resources into these slots that based on what things are being targeted, whether it's your energy or your durability.
It's hard to describe the gameplay in this, especially the combat. The combat's a little bit hard to grasp, even when you're playing it the first time.
When you reach the points, there's generally the points on the map tend to be like, could be a small town, or it could be a gas station, or sometimes there's like hiking trails, which hiking trails are interesting because they put you into most of the game is in flat 2D, despite the fact that you're driving north, south, east, west. Everything is represented like 2D, going from left to right. But there is some like 3D, like first person, almost dungeon like crawly kind of things,
kind of like
when you go into the hiking trails. The point of that is just to like search around, and sometimes you can find items that you can use. There's garages where you can upgrade your cars, and this is kind of one of the roguelike elements, is that roguelite elements is that your car upgrades carry over. If you upgrade a car, next time you do a playthrough, that car will have those upgrades.
And upgrades can be very significant in helping you get through to the end, to wherever your goal is.
They can be like adding durability to your car, or adding fuel efficiency, speed, things like that.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking, like, is there
tires
a game?
give you like bonuses during combat? Different tires give you different bonuses.
Right.
Sorry, Phil?
I was gonna say, is there a game that is remotely similar? Because like as we talk about it, I feel like it is hard to imagine what's happening with this game. Like what it's like.
I mean, I kind of like, it made me think of Slay the Spire and other games similar to that. But
I think. What
but
about
that's
Faster
more of
Than
a
Light?
traditional
No.
RPG.
No.
FTL.
They had that truck in there, so I don't know if it had anything to do with that developer. I know you noticed that where the truck says FTL, Faster Than Light, or something on in the game.
Really?
There's like a
Instead of
truck
like
that shows
UPS,
up.
it's like
Yeah. There's like some truck that's on
Yeah,
the
I
road
saw
all the
that.
That's
time.
funny.
This is
Might be a reference. It is, in a sense, it's kind of like FTL because you do travel like to different spots. I don't know. I haven't played Slay the Spire, so
And
to be honest, I don't know.
it also almost kind of felt like a deck builder as well in the way that
Yeah.
the way that the skills
to-
work, because
Yeah.
you have you basically hang the skills like you're hanging like air fresheners from your
I saw them
from your
as
mirror.
Polaroids. That's what I thought they were.
I think it depends. Some of
Yeah,
them
some
were
things
like
are fresheners. That's right. And some
yeah,
things
some
are
of them are air
Polaroids.
fresheners, some are Polaroids, and you clip them to the front of your like windshield, like, or your mirror area, and like you can only have like 5 equipped at a time, but you can mix and match them, and create your kind of loadout of how you want to play. And then your hitchhikers, though, they just have their abilities.
And they level up and they get
Yeah,
more.
they level up
as
as
you
well.
They
play.
do level up, but when they level up, they usually give you like a negative perk also.
It's usually a
which is
positive and a
interesting.
negative each time.
Yeah. You'll gain a new skill, but then they might like say there's somebody, I think that's the who is it? The well, for example, you have the girl, the
Hippie
drug girl,
Hurricane.
the hippie chick, Hurricane. Her name is Hurricane.
Yeah.
When she levels up to like level 2, I think she starts like shoplifting. Actually, that's a positive. You get to freely
that was great.
shoplift.
No, that's her
So-
final level. That's like her main big positive one, is that you can start
She gets
stealing
to shoplift like 30% of the time when you're like a shop or something like that.
shit. It's every time.
There's
But you can
someone
only
that's-
steal a small item. That's it.
Yeah, you can steal like a small item that's like a one. You have like a trunk space. I guess did we talk about the trunk space? You have trunk space, so you can only put. That's a big
Yeah.
part of the game. How much stuff you can like
Right.
put in the car.
Inventory
It's the
management is
main
pretty big.
probably part of the game actually.
I used
That's
the
a big
truck
part.
because I liked having all the trunk space.
Yeah, I thought the same.
Yeah.
The truck is beast, man. I want
Yeah.
a truck now. I think this game sold me on a truck.
There really isn't that much benefit of the sedan over the truck. I think the
I
only
think
thing
if
that
you want to have a
You just
lot
want a
of
bunch of hitchhikers. Yeah.
if you want to have a lot, but still like the truck could still fit 2, right? You could.
Yeah, but if you had, I could imagine playing this.
You could fit 3 in the
where
truck.
you just go
But
all
why
in
the
on
fuck?
hitchhikers.
Yeah, 2, but 2 more than you. You can't fit 3 hitchhikers. You can fit 2
Right,
hitchhikers.
but if you could have 4 hitchhikers, you'd have all these extra skills that you can use in combat scenarios.
This is getting to one of my major issues with this game is that I thought it was way too easy. I don't know if you guys had this problem. The only time I had any like worries or any time I was thinking like I might fail was the very first run, and that was only because I didn't know what I was doing. But I still on my very first run I made it to the festival.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I had no problems. And then after that, after I realized like how the mechanics works, I never even came close to like losing, not even once. I had to intentionally lose to get the bad ending.
Well, yeah. Okay, continue.
And this
I
and this
kind of
was
screwed myself, so I'll explain that. But
okay. Well, that's the thing is like I never felt the need to like I need more hitchhikers or like I need this and that. Like basically what I did after the first round is just like I just go wherever has the employment office, go there, do every single job that's available, and then you have like a few $100s and you can just upgrade your car. You can do whatever the hell you want.
People don't listen to this guy. Don't listen to this guy.
All the gas you need. That's all you have to do. And then like the entire game became trivial. Like it was easy for me to get to anywhere I wanted to go. It was just more of a headache to get from one point to another because I just had to wait and like do these combat encounters, but that I didn't really want to do.
so I didn't realize that at first because I kept choosing I forget, you can choose like a few starting items based on your like character's personality, and I kept choosing the one that comes with a case of beer and a guitar.
Yeah,
and then I kept drinking the beer.
Yeah,
I kept drinking the beer on the road. And if you drink beer and drive in this game, it fucks you completely.
Yeah.
It
Combat
fucks
encounters
you.
become impossible.
Just all the encounters you have become like unwinnable because like whereas like a normal encounter might like hit you with like you've got a hit to your energy, a hit to your durability, and that's it. If you have a beer before you drive, it's like 10 different
Right.
like
There's like
things
10
in gun
different
combat.
attacks
And not
on
only
you.
is it
Yeah.
10 different attacks, but it's like because usually it's multiple rounds for each combat.
Yeah.
And you like take them out like one at a time or two at a time. And you just gradually decrease the attacks on you. But when you're drinking, every round it adds more. Like they keep you, even if you get rid of 2, they add 2 more on the next round. So
I
it's
think they wanted
almost
to
impossible.
discourage
send a
people
message.
from having fun drinking and driving in
Yeah.
the game.
Although weed seemed to be okay, the drugs didn't seem to be as bad as drinking. Actually,
Cocaine
to be
was
honest.
not that bad. Yeah.
Yeah, coke, the weed, it didn't really affect
This
you
is
nearly as
weird.
badly.
Okay, I want to ask about this really quickly. The weed thing. The girl Hurricane, every time I pick her up,
Mhm.
she's like, "I've got weed." I
Yeah.
never got weed in the car. I couldn't find it. Like, was there
I
supposed
had
to be
weed in my car.
I
when
don't
she
think
gets
she.
in?
No, well, when she says it, you don't get weed, but you can buy weed and you can get weed.
From where?
Maybe I
There-
bought weed because I definitely
There's a
had
dude
weed.
on like standing on a corner. There's some places where there's someone like you're in this. You roll into the city, so when you pull into your node and then you
Right.
enter the city mode, and then
Yeah.
there's a guy or somebody who's like standing on a street. Sometimes
Wow.
I think mostly in the
Dude,
urban
I swear
areas.
to God, I never got that person because I did.
Well, I got
talk
the
to
weed,
li-
man. Smoke
I
that
talked to
weed.
I got the
literally
weed
everyone.
too.
Don't
Yeah.
smoke the weed. But
I only had the coke. I never got weed. I had coke once, but I think that was part of my starting kit or something like that. But yeah,
there's someone called like the Shady Dealer. They sell like a knife, like coke, weed,
Nice.
crowbar. They had, I think. I don't know
Okay.
if you saw that, Dennis.
Well, either
Well,
way, that's my major issue. Is this game was too easy.
What? Yeah. Well, to speak to what Matt's saying, like, I didn't realize that until like halfway through because
Didn't
the
realize
only
what.
reason it was hard for me was because I was making it harder for myself. And
Because
the
you were
more
drinking.
time, well, first of all, it was the drinking, but then it also because like I have that, I have that, like urge to always do every fucking quest that comes my way. So
yeah, that'll fuck you in this too.
so that like even if I was going backwards, I would still take the quests and
Right.
like, all right, I think I can do it. And like the more I felt like the more time you spend wasting time on the way to your final goal, the more likely you are to lose. So the easiest way to play, like kind of like what you're saying, is just to just go directly to the last goal, the music festival.
Right. Well, for me, it was what I found was that first go get a bunch of jobs because you can get these employment offices at some stops, and those will load you up on cash, and then you can just get every upgrade that you can find, and then you just go straight there. And like at that point, because one thing I learned, because I was doing that sort of like I was doing especially the first one I didn't. The first one I just like went straight to the festival because I just wanted to get to the end and see if I could do it. But in subsequent runs, I started doing those side quests where they like give you money, and I thought they would be cool and interesting, but they ended up just being really boring, and they were just like, here's $60, $30, $40, but I was like, I could have just gotten that very quickly at an employment office, and these side quests aren't interesting, so I stopped doing them. And then all I was trying to do was unlock the main quests, which you can get through like the hitchhikers. There's like the festival ones, like the first one you get, but you can get other ones through different things.
So
I think the side quests are necessary because like there are times where an employment office is quite far away, and it's like if you needed money,
that's why
the map is randomized, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So
as far as what's there, yeah.
For the most part, yeah. So I think for me it was after that first one, I just realized go find wherever the closest employment office is and get there. But yeah, if you can't find one anywhere close, then it's definitely harder. But I could usually find one pretty soon, like pretty early in the game.
The hitchhikers are also randomized, which is a big. I didn't know that at first, but like I got the convict at first. There's like 10 or something different hitchhikers, and I got the convict, and he did not make things easy because if you get pulled over by the police, it becomes a very difficult encounter, which I wasn't prepared for the first time around. So
yeah. I was kind of annoyed with the hitchhiker thing just because I don't know if this happened for you, but my first 3 runs or something like that, every time the first hitchhiker I got every single time was Hurricane. So I thought it was just like she's automatically always the first one.
I only got her once.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I was really annoyed by that.
Me too.
After I found out that she wasn't necessarily supposed to be the first one every time, I was like, I got really frustrated because it's just like I'm getting the same hitchhiker every time and the same quest from her every single time when I want to get the other ones. I ended up getting
Did,
like her, the
did anyone
convict,
get
the
the black guy?
baby.
I was looking for the black guy.
I
No
got the
black
artist,
guy.
yeah, the musician. I got him. He was really funny.
That's
He was funny because if you level him up to the max level, because he's like a poor artist and he's trying to like like travel and perform music. And his like last one is like you become like business partners question mark, and it's like if you kick him out, he takes half of your money, and that was like
Mm.
that was the negative part to him if you keep him until his final level.
I had
I thought it was funny.
the sleeper, the child. It's
I
like
had
a
the child.
5-year-old
Child,
girl.
I got the child
Yeah.
a few times. Yeah.
The businessman guy.
I never got the dog. There's a dog.
I didn't get the dog.
Yeah, I got the dog. I got the dog.
I
That's
never
what the
got the
punk. You
dog.
get the punk who has the
Never
dog.
got the
I
punk.
had. Oh wait, no, I thought I did get the punk.
And the punk is pretty cool. The punk is pretty cool. I
Yeah.
got the mechanic, and
I had the mechanic once as well. Yeah.
the hiker. I got the
I had the
hiker.
mechanic too. I never got
Also.
the hiker, but I know he has an ending associated.
Hiker's
with
pretty
him.
good. Yeah. So I guess we can transition a bit. Let's transition into talking about the story. What story there might be in this game? Matt, if you want to tell us a bit about how the story. I don't think there's really much of a story exactly.
I mean, it depends, but yeah. So the story is essentially it's like the early 2000s, I think, is the setting, and you're basically a young dude who's maybe between high school and college, or something like that. Maybe really early 20s, I think, is the idea. And it opens with like you're young, you have time, take your time, enjoy you're gonna go on your first road trip, and then you choose your car and all that. And then you start, and what you start off with is a letter from your friends who are at this festival, and they're like, come see us at this festival, and don't worry about like, stressing out or hurrying, like take your time to get here and all this stuff. And that's essentially it. And like you said, you start out, you have a map, you choose the way you want to go. There's a bunch of destinations on the way, and then along the way, you end up getting sidetracked with a bunch of, you talk to people. They will tell you like, oh, we have this car race that we're going to be holding, like, and you should join. And like the requirement is you have to, paint your car black and get some kind of get a roll cage, and you have to go to this area to participate, which can be very far away from the festival. It can be a completely different area of the map. But you get a bunch of those, and some of them are like final like end of your run events, like that one, the car race. If you go and do the car race, that ends the game. You don't get to go to the festival after that or anything like that. And then there's just ones that are just side quests where you have to like find someone's lost cat and return it to them, and that will give you some money and a skill point or something like that. So yeah, there's a bunch of these. Like, I guess the main story is like, I would say not those small side quests, but those kind of end game side quests. So like, there's the festival. There's one where you inherit money from your grandma who's dying, and you like move into this house and settle down, which was kind of a funny ending. There's a party. You go to the party in the woods. That's from Hurricane. Get a full-time job, become like a full-time worker, which I did. That's one of the ones I did. Car race, rehab.
I got the grandma one at one point.
Yeah. And then there's also failure states, so that you can also fail. So I think the main two ones are, getting arrested by drunk driving, or running away from the cops, because that's one of the things you can do. We didn't mention this in the gameplay, is if you like hold down the gas during an encounter on the road, you can just speed through it, but you take like extra damage throughout when you do that. So you can do that with the cops. If the cops pull you over, you can like run away from them, and then they like chase you down with their like high beams. And then if you fail that, then they arrest you. And then the other one is getting stranded. So like if your car breaks down, or if you run out of gas, or if you run out of energy and you can't get help, you can like try to call your parents, and there's a few other options. But if you fail that, then you get stranded. So those are like the two failure states, and then there's like 7 other like regular endings. And I didn't know this, but there's actually a quote unquote true ending, where if you do every single ending, it gives you like a special thing where you can actually like walk around your house, and then like inside of your house, and then like you know how like you have like the notebook that shows like the pictures of all the different endings. You can actually like meet someone. This is a slight spoiler, but that doesn't really matter.
Hey, wait, hey.
It's a slight spoiler. Just it's not a big deal. But basically, you talk to someone in your house, and like, hey grandpa, like, can I have that road trip book that you made when you were a kid? I'm going to go on my first road trip. And then you like hand the book over to them, so it's like you in the future, like handing down these memories to your grandkid. And that's the end. And then it actually rolls the credits, because the other endings, they don't actually roll the credits when you get to those.
And the kid gets in his self-driving car, and
Yeah, he gets in his Tesla that just takes him automatically, and he doesn't have to worry about it. He can just sleep while it drives. Yeah, so for me, the story was, it's basic. It kept me interested at first, but this is also my other issue, is that when I learned that every final ending is like essentially the same thing, and by that I mean you just get to it, you have to go to the location, meet what are the prerequisites are, but you get to a location, and then it just does like a very, very short cutscene. There's no like boss battle, there's nothing special really. It's just like you arrived at the party and had a great time, and like that's kind of how it ends for every single one of these things.
I guess the Great Race almost kind of was
Yes,
a
the
boss
Great
battle.
Race is the only different one where you actually have to participate in this race and beat it by doing special encounters for the race, which was cool. I wish the other endings had been like that.
This is why I said, like, I think this can be a really fun game as long as you manage your expectations and don't expect it to be like this deep, like story-driven experience. Because I think the fun and interest people are going to derive from it, one is going to come from the nostalgia, but also from like just working out the systems and seeing all the different achievements and possible endings and possible characters and loadouts and just experimenting with that kind of thing. But if your goal is just, I want to play this game and beat this game, I think you'd be disappointed, because it's so easy to do that or get an ending, and then that's not really the point, though. I feel like the developers, at least from the point of view of the developers, I don't think that's the point.
It feels weird in the sense that like they put this game up and they could have like really added a lot more to some of these things. I feel like without too much more effort, like especially the encounters and then the stories. Like when it ends, like they couldn't add like a couple more sentences, like something, and then you know what I'm saying. That end, even the encounters get very like they couldn't come up with like more unique ones.
Yeah,
like you see the same things all the time. And for example, I'm sorry, just quickly, I was just saying, for example, I picked up the Hitchhiker first, and when my first playthrough, I picked up the Hitchhiker the first thing, and I thought, oh, this is like a moral decision. If I like, am I like helping him escape? Like maybe I shouldn't pick him up actually, but I didn't realize there's no like consequences or anything like that really. So it's not like you have to worry about what's going to happen later. So I feel like they have a good foundation with the stories, with how this all works, but they could have really easily built some more like interconnectivity or like a little bit of story depth or something like that. But there really isn't any of that in the game. So yeah. You need to manage your expectations.
I think depth was my issue. Like I felt as soon as I understood how the encounters worked, they became boring. I never enjoyed the drive between two spots at that point, because it was just like I just have to go through these encounters, but none of them they're not really that fun, I guess you could say. That was my issue.
Yeah, you feel like they would make more unique encounters, like a bird's in the and then you get the same ones a lot, so it's like, okay, a bird's on the road.
But even though like
it's not like that,
it's not the scenario, it's just the systems.
Yeah, the system is what was boring for me. It wasn't the like
whether it's a bird or a tree or a speeding truck, like you're still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was never, and once I learned the system, it never became all that difficult. Like obviously if you're drunk, it gets very hard, but just don't get drunk and it's pretty manageable. So that was my issue. But I do agree, it would be cool if there was more. Even just having more unique endings would have been cool. Like at the party, let you go inside of the party and like walk around the house and drink and like do something there other than just being you arrived at the party and you had a lot of fun, and that's the end.
And I feel like maybe there was meant to be some more to it, because you have this leveling up system and skill points to get new skills, but once I filled up my 5 slots, I never really felt the need to to change out. Like I'd have skill points and I could buy new skills, but I never really felt the need to like swap them out because for the most part, the skills that you unlock have negative points as well, and they're not necessarily better than other ones that you have. They're just different, and they allow you to approach it in a different way. But like I never really felt like the encounters were complex enough to warrant me having to change my skill loadout. So it kind of every time I leveled up and got more skill points, I kind of didn't care.
Yeah, I was just saying. I think
Yeah.
at one point I had like 6 skill points. I didn't even realize it. Like I just wasn't even.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Like essentially, like
Right.
it made no difference.
Yeah.
And there's not like there's no visual like way of, you know, like if in a, you know, like a fantasy RPG, you'll be like, ooh, I unlocked the new fire spell. At least I'll have
Right.
a cool like visual representation of me doing the new skill or a new combat move or something. But everything looks the same because I mean it is a graphical choice, I guess, but there's nothing fun really about
Nothing
using a
happens.
new
There's no
skill.
like effects or anything like that, or
Right. It's
yeah.
very
There's a lot.
basic.
There's a lot. You know, if these publishers listening, which I know you are, there's a really good foundation. I just feel like there's a lot of little things they could do to just take it up a notch, like effects or like even sound effects for different skills, or like maybe make a catch line when you use a certain skill, or I don't know. There's just little things I feel like
things that could have made this more interesting and more, you know, engaging. That was the issue.
So I almost, well, I'll get into it later, I guess. But we're still on story, right?
I think we've
I was
done
about
story.
to move on, actually.
Yeah,
but
let's move on.
Yeah, so the vibe of the game. We're gonna talk about the vibe of the game, and the vibe is, I mean, we kind of talked about it. It's like it's a road trip that takes place in, I guess, the 2000s or something like that. We didn't talk about one thing, which is the music.
It's supposed to be early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s. So vibe is
early 2000s
music.
So we talked about music in the beginning as far as like what would you want to listen to in a road trip, and why that kind of connects to this game is that this game, you have a CD player and you collect CDs while you're on the road, and you can like put different CDs into the car and listen to them. Like you queue up tracks and you like manually have to put them in and like play, and that's the soundtrack while it will go through like a 3-minute song, someone singing and stuff. And so yeah, it's like early 2000s, kind of like punky emo vibe, kind of.
I think it's more like indie rock.
I was gonna say more
Like
indie
an
rock
indie
or
rock?
shoegaze. Yeah, I wouldn't really
At
call it
least
punk.
shoegaze vibe.
the first default album that you start with, I think, is like a shoegazy indie rock kind of vibe.
That was one of my other issues with this game. But I don't know if you're
The
about
music?
to say this, Phil. But the music, I really liked it at first. When you first leave,
It
like
gets
the
old
first,
quick.
it gets very old very fast though. And the main reason is because like these are good artists. They're real musicians, real artists. That wasn't made just for this game. Like they're real.
Like I know you're gonna
music,
say,
but,
yeah.
But the thing is, they're all similar. Like they're all the same type of music generally. There really isn't any variety, I would say, in the different music that you get.
They needed
Very
some
small.
different genres or something.
That's what I'm saying. Like there was no genre variety. Like I wanted,
Yeah.
it was like pure
I'm
indie rock.
I'm sure it'll get modded in at some point to let you use custom music.
Yeah, I mean that would have been great. Or you know,
what I did,
just
my
mute.
last like stint of playing this game is because playing music does give you a
Right.
benefit.
That was
It
the other
actually
thing.
like it helps your combat situation. Sometimes it turns a threat into like a debuff.
That's
or
why that
something like
happens.
that.
I wondered at some point I wasn't getting those music note things.
If you have the music playing.
It's only if you have the music playing.
So what I did was I turned the volume on the music in game completely down, and then I just put Spotify on and made my own like 2000s playlist.
Yeah, that would have been much more enjoyable.
And I just listened to that the entire time, and that exponentially increased the game because I picked what I would have been listening to in that time, you know, like, okay, what would early 2000s Dennis be playing on a road trip? And I just like to try and capture the vibes and fill that nostalgia feeling up, you know?
Yeah, that definitely
helped.
Yeah, that would definitely be ideal. And I know like the the devs can't put every single artist into their game. That would not be
Right, and that's
feasible. So
expensive.
it makes sense to do it that way. But in terms of like actually what they could have but still, simply for me, they just needed some sort of variety to the music they put in the
Yeah.
game. It was like really every artist was kind of the same type of music. And they're
Yeah.
all good, but on their own. But when you're just only listening to that, it became really boring.
Yeah,
And
I turned it
there's
off
not
quick.
that
Yeah.
much
and
to
there's not like
choose
a ton.
from.
Yeah,
I mean,
And
there's a
every
bunch
time
of
you
CDs you could
Yeah, but
get.
every time you buy a CD, it's like one track.
It's one song. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like one album, but
right.
it was
Me
I
too.
think
one
there
single
were
song.
some. I feel
There
like
were
I
some
did
times
actually
when you
get
get a
one
full
that
album.
was chill, like a chill. But yeah, everything else is like the most. I don't want to say the most typical. That sounds negative, but like it does sound very like generic
Well,
at some point. Like
when you're
like
playing it, like the
shoegaze.
more you play it, the more generic it sounds, just because everything
Yeah.
kind of blends together. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the issue. So they needed like some hip hop or some like like you
Yeah,
said,
they
punk or
definitely
like
needed something else, like in
like
there.
electronic music or something like that.
Even
Like they
pop.
kind
They
of
could have been a bit more. I mean,
pop.
I don't know if this was like budget constrained or whatever, but like if they do another game and this was a
There's
successful
no
game,
way.
then
There's no way
definitely.
that would be budget constraint. That's just pure up like bad decision making. I think because like if they can get those artists, they could have gotten other artists.
I
Anyway,
think, yeah, but ideally the way to play this is to be able to use your own music, and if they could mod that in or add some kind of way of doing that, which I imagine that'll happen.
connect to Spotify.
that's-
Part 2 could be like
Yeah.
an iPod or something, like an iPad.
Right.
Not an
Yeah,
iPad,
that would be cool.
iPod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe if they make it,
Old school iPod, generation 1 kind of, or something like that.
I feel like we've had this before with several games where it's just like sequel could be really good if they take all of our advice. Like they have a decent idea here with good foundation, but they really need to like step, like you make it a little bit more deep and like, yeah, do all these things that we're saying and then it'll be a fucking great game.
I still stand by what I said. I think if your expectations were something else, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're into the systems and you want to like explore all of the different endings, like achievement hunters are probably going to love this game. And a lot of people do like this game.
It is
I like this
overwhelmingly
game,
positive.
but I would have liked
Yes.
more.
Yeah.
I fundamentally think that the combat system is boring and not interesting.
Almost in a way, this game might have been better with zero combat. Like I might have liked just more of like a story driven drive around and like do the quest and like interact
maybe like
with people.
navigating,
Like
more,
that's
more
it.
navigating
Yeah.
related type
Navigating, and maybe there's like scenarios or something, and just dealing with different scenarios, almost like
Yeah.
a novel. Not a novel, but like
I mean,
that might have been
right.
more interesting because the combat is not interesting at all. That's the least interesting part of the game, probably.
Right. Yeah, that was my largest issue. I did like we talking about vibe still, but I loved the art direction. I thought the pixel, like the lo-fi pixel artwork that they were using, was really cool. I thought that was really nice. I really liked the way the game looked. I thought it was really
Same.
good looking.
Yeah, it looks cool. Like characters look cool. It's cool. Yeah.
I think the vibe is probably the strongest part of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad this wasn't like a 3D or like high fidelity looking game. I think that it worked very, very well. So I love that part of it.
Yeah. I guess there's not much more to say about the vibe. I guess that's it. The music, the era it takes place.
Yeah, it does do a good job of capturing that, like the feel of that era, I would think. Especially for us three who would have been around that age, road tripping at that age. That's why I said, like, I think millennials will appreciate it more, probably.
Okay, so yeah, the vibe was not exactly too much to say about that, but as far as like your experience of this game, what do you think was like the best and worst experience you had, or worst experience you had?
Okay, my favorite moment was probably the very beginning of the game, just like that moment when you first leave your house and like you start driving and the music turns on and you're like blasting the music and you're like flying down the highway. That moment felt really cool to me, and I was like, oh, this is really awesome. I really like this, and the music is interesting and all that. But the worst moment on the other hand, is realizing that the music's repetitive, the endings are kind of all the same thing, and the combat's really boring after you understand how it works. So it was definitely the double-edged sword there.
How about you, Dennis?
I'll choose worst moment, which was when I got to the main starting goal, which was the music festival, and I was just kind of like, huh, that's it, I guess.
Yeah, seemed like a lot of work for
exactly.
nothing or something.
Right,
Yeah, it just kind of felt
exactly.
like wah wah.
Right. And every
Yeah.
ending
I
was
guess,
like that. Every ending was
I
like,
guess I beat the game.
you got to your destination. Good job. You had fun.
Yeah.
And that's the end.
It was very underwhelming endings. Yeah, I like the Great Race. Like I said, I think the Great Race was probably the best. Like you felt like you at least did something and you won or something like that.
Yeah,
But
that one
everything else
makes
is like,
sense.
yeah, you got there. Good
The
job.
other thing that made it took away from it was because I made a conscious decision at that point, like that particular run is like, all right, I'm going to stop screwing around and like stop going on all these stupid side quests. And I'm just going to focus and go from here to there without getting distracted. And then it was easy and I got there. And then it was just like, well, maybe it was supposed to be about the journey.
Right. Yeah.
It is about the journey. But they could have easily added like I said, again with the endings, I hate talking about the endings, but like you pick up Hitchhikers and then when it ends, I just like they could easily added like a postscript, like, hey, like the hitchhiker, or you know what I mean, you got the girl, the hurricane, she OD'd, or she did too much. You know what I'm saying? They could have given you at least a little post,
Really dark.
one sentence, little
I
paragraph
don't
what
think
happened to
they
that
want to
character
make
or
it too
something.
dark, but
Well, okay, so maybe she didn't
Yeah.
OD, like maybe she just
Well,
like
something
got her
that's
shit together.
specific to the situation you're in. You mean like based on the hitchhikers you have with you,
It
or
could be based on decisions or just what happened to them, I guess. Like some of them were with you the whole time and you kind of feel
Right.
like you got like they're like your party member almost. If you think about this as an RPG, and then
I
it's just
had
like they're gone.
I had I had my hitchhikers with me when I went to the festival, and I know at least one of them. It was the business dude. He had like his quest where he wanted me to take him somewhere, and I just ignored it and brought him to the festival, and he was like,
Why'd you bring
it
me
didn't
here?
make a difference. He was just at the festival with me. It was like, okay.
Yeah,
It didn't
right.
matter.
Exactly. That kind of like like you said, the interconnectedness of everything was kind of not there.
But I think having if there was something more to that ending, I wouldn't have felt so deflated.
Exactly. So did
My
you have a
worst-
favorite or worst moment?
Yeah, my worst part of this game, I don't even know what happened. I think I was trying to tell you guys. I said I would tell you about it in the show, but I was driving the muscle car and I was excited about that. I was like really into this game. I'm not sure I could play this game after this happened. And I was like doing a bunch of work. I was like, you know what? I'm getting money. I'm just gonna tune my car out. Like I'm all business. Me and the mechanic are driving around listening to CDs, just like car shit all day. And then I don't know what happened. I left one of the towns and my car just like exploded and it was like, oh, call, you know what I mean? It stalled or whatever. And it's like, you got to call, but I had full everything. So I'm like, okay, what happened? And so I think I called, I didn't call my parents first. I did something else first, like pay to get a taxi or you get a tow or something like that. Pay to get a tow, everything kind of resets and then you lose a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, okay, let me leave town again. Leave town. And the same thing happens. Like everything dies. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I call my parents. They give me $200. Get gas, get energy, whatever. Leave again, die again. I'm like, what the hell's going
serious?
on?
What?
Yes.
That's fucked.
I had full everything. So I'm like, what is going? I mean, tell me, people. There's something I don't know.
You never figured out what was wrong?
I never figured out what was happening.
It sounds like a random occurrence. It sounds like a kind of a random thing that should happen to you sometimes.
Just bad luck.
But it sounds like what happened to me with the fucking hitchhiker hurricane, because I got her 3 times in a row every time I started the damn game. And I thought that it was supposed to happen, but I don't think it is. It's not. I think it's probably just poorly coded, or badly decided. I mean, it shouldn't happen that way. They should have a thing like, if this happens to you, it shouldn't happen to you again
Twice
immediately again. Yeah,
but it didn't seem like a scenario and that's maybe that is a complaint about the game overall. There's very little information given. Like a lot of the mechanics are kind of simple, but there are some things that they just don't explain at all. They do explain things in the beginning, but they don't explain like, okay, armor is not that well explained, and like you can pull the seats down. They don't really explain that, I think, to you.
You can pull the
ever.
seats down?
Yeah, you can pull the seats down
I
and
didn't
make
know
more
that.
space. Yeah.
I did not know that.
So if you have the truck, for example, you can pull the back row, the back or whatever car you have, the Volvo and whatever, you can pull the back row down, and then you get more
Truck
space.
doesn't have a back row.
I had no idea.
So it's not the
you could
truck;
do
it's
that.
the sports car and the Volvo. You can pull
That's
the back
pretty
rows
funny.
Huh.
down.
That's
didn't
pretty
know
But I'm
funny.
like,
I
that's
d-
what I'm
would've
saying.
been
They don't
useful.
explain anything to you like that. So
Right.
there's a few things that are like
But
just
yeah,
weird.
that
and
would piss me off, man. That would really annoy me.
yeah,
if that happened.
I'm
Sounds-
not sure I can
sounds
play
like
it
you got
again.
really bad luck, but it, at the same time, it sounds like that shouldn't be able to happen.
It shouldn't
But-
happen.
I had something. So you talked about that. I think that might be a bug. But what happened? I had a definite bug, and I don't know if you guys ever encountered this, where there was a stop that I wanted to go to because it had the things that I wanted, like a store and a gas station and like a employment center or something like that, and it was literally right next to another stop, like 2 centimeters away. I was like, what the fuck is this? I've never seen this before, where there's two stops that are literally on top of each other on the map. And I could see them both. I could mouse over both and see what was there.
I don't think I had that. No.
But when I clicked on it, so I was like, okay, I'll try this. So I went there, but it just brought me to there was like a small one with just a gas station and nothing else. And then the other one that I wanted to go to that was right next to it that had all this other shit. And it just brought me to the gas station one. And then I was like, okay. And then I tried to go again, and it didn't let me select that place, and it made me go right past it, and like to the next big stop, like the next stop that was kind of far away. So I was like, okay, maybe I have to go back. And so I tried to go back, and it just brought me to the same one with the fucking gas, like only the gas station. So that really annoyed the hell out of me, because every trip, like that's several minutes of you just like sitting in the car doing these boring,
That's annoying. Yeah.
combats. And so it was just like, oh, that's kind of when I was like, okay, I'm really annoyed by this. I'm tired of this.
Well, in the essence of this show, is this a bite-sized game, and do you recommend it, Dennis?
It it is a bite-sized game in that it's short and that you can do runs. I think, especially once you learn the systems and know how to play it, you can jump in quickly and do quick runs. There's a lot there to explore, I think, if you're interested in like getting the different achievements and stuff. But yeah, I'd only recommend it if you're just curious about seeing a game, like a unique game like this, because I can't really think of anything that's quite like it. So and if you want to capture those vibes of a road trip, if maybe if you're kind of a more casual gamer, this might be something you'd be more interested in too.
Is this for a casual gamer? Do you think it's like
I'd say it's easy enough for a casual gamer, and if you just want to capture those like vibes, it's good for that. I probably won't play around with it much more personally, but I enjoyed some of my time with it.
How about you?
I would say, yeah, I would say it's a bite-sized game, just because you can get any of the endings pretty quickly, but I would not recommend it, just for all the reasons we've talked about. And yeah, I just don't. I think it could have been a very good game. It has a lot of potential, but unfortunately, this game, as it is, I really wanted to love it. I was so, like, when I first started playing it, I thought it was going to be great. I was really excited, but unfortunately, kind of let me down. So,
okay. Myself, yeah, it's definitely a bite-sized game in my opinion. And do I recommend it? I think that is a tough. I think I do recommend it. I feel like we're more split on this game more than other games. I feel like I think I do recommend it, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna say I do recommend it, but yeah, you just kind of have to know what you're getting into. But I could completely agree with all the negative points about the game as well. So it's not a perfect game. I think there's a lot of potential, but I did enjoy it for what it is. I think it's like $20 or something like that. Maybe is it $15 or $20? I'm not sure, if you want to keep the price in mind. it's if it looks like it might appeal to you, I recommend it. Like just at a glimpse or something, like at a glance. That's what I have to say about that.
I was gonna say that this is the kind of game that I think you could like have on in a separate window or separate screen while you're doing something else.
Yeah, because it doesn't
I
demand.
have
your attention.
games like Balatro, for example, is a game that I'll often have going, like when I need to like render something during an edit or and I have like 10 minutes, and I'll jump back over to that. For example, Slay the Spire used to be a game I did that with too, and I think this can fill that void. And if you think of it as like that kind of a game, like just something to do in between other things, yeah, it's good for that. Like, I wouldn't say it's very immersive though, but it's like, yeah, it's good for that for sure.
Yeah, so a little bit of a split on that, and I think most of the other games we've almost all agreed. Honestly, I think all the games up to this point we might have all had the same opinion as far as recommending it or not. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, so that's the case of this game. Little split, but check it out if you're interested. Keep driving. It could be worth your time. So I want to thank everybody for listening. You could tune in and keep track of what we're doing on our next show in the future. You can find us on X and Blue Sky and Instagram. We're at Bite Size Games, at Bite Size Games _ That is our ID. So look us up if you have any feedback or any sort of comments or anything like that. Feel free to get in touch with us. You can also email us at bitesizegames.info@gmail.com. So yeah, look forward to being in touch with everyone next time. And the next show
We're
we're
also
going to be
on YouTube as well, and Twitch.
YouTube and
now.
Twitch, yeah.
We are on YouTube. A little tough to find, honestly, but so if you do look for us on YouTube, maybe type in the name of the game. For example, Keep Driving, Bite Size Games. You might find us. So if you search for Bite Size Games, maybe add the name of a game. That makes it easier to find us. And we're also on Twitch, and we are streaming. We're going to try to do maybe like weekly or bi-weekly, whenever. We might be streaming whenever. It's not like a schedule, but we're streaming here back on Twitch. So you can also be in touch with us there. So thank you for everybody. And remember, every gaming moment is a chance for greatness.